Hello, I'm Alex Gill with Anime on Location, and we are here at Colossalcon 2014 with Phil LaMarr. How are you doing, Phil?
I'm doing good, Alex. How are you?
Pretty good. Now, I'd like to talk to you about your role, your work in improv comedy, to start off with. How has improv comedy influenced your acting? Are there any unique traits that you feel improv performance brings to other forms of acting?
It's mostly a looseness and a comfort level. I mean, once you have been up on stage with no script, anytime you're up there with a script, it's like being on a tightrope with a net. You know, there's a certain level of relaxation that comes with this. Like, I'm not going to die. I think that's the main thing. I mean, because generally speaking, it's funny because when you do comedy, especially, people think, oh, you just must make up all that funny stuff. It's like, no, that's why there are 9 writers getting paid more than all the actors, because they come up with the funny stuff. Our job is just to give it life, more often than not.
Sounds good. Now, in Futurama, Hermes Conrad is a bureaucrat. Were there any actions that you took to get yourself engaged in that character? Like, did you go to the DMV and people watch? Did you marathon C-SPAN, or did you just use your improv skills and go in the moment? Like, how'd you prepare for the role?
I used my second grade skills of reading, and no, I mean, there's no method voiceover. I'm trying to think, wait, do I know anybody? No, there's no reason for it. I mean, you've got brilliant writers writing a script. You don't need to go and let me learn how bureaucrats think. It's all there on the page.
Sounds good. Now, a while ago, you were in a movie called Free Enterprise. Were you a Star Trek fan going in, and what was the atmosphere like on set? Did you have the chance to chat with Bill Shatner about anything interesting, or what was it like?
Well, it's funny. I considered myself, kind of a geek until I met Mark and Rob, the guys who wrote it and produced and directed it. I mean, they took it to a whole other level. I mean, it's funny because they were, to me, basically the precursors of the whole mainstreaming of geek culture. I mean, we were doing conventions for Free Enterprise before conventions were known in the mainstream. Because they were, deep into the Star Trek thing. I was personally more of a Wars than a Trek person at that time. In fact, they had to give us all videotapes, all of the actors, to explain the references in the script, because their geekery went deep, very, very deep. You had to know the melodies of songs from certain episodes of Trek, and it's and you had to be fluent in it. It didn't have to. It couldn't seem like you were trying to think of the things or saying it in a way where it didn't. It's no, these guys know this stuff backwards and forwards. So we all had reference tapes to learn our geekery.
All right. Who are some of your favorite comedians that have inspired you, and are there any on the circuit today that you would suggest people go see, and why are they your favorites?
That's a good question. I don't know. It's always tough to compare contemporaries to people you knew growing up, just because there's something about the things that you experience through your 12-year-old eyes that nothing can ever really get into your DNA in that same way. I mean, I came through the Groundlings right ahead of Will Ferrell. I think Will is absolutely brilliant, but I can't see him the same way that I saw John Ritter, when I was a kid. Because there's something about either seeing something for the first time or seeing something through those impressionable eyes where you're like, wow, they seem larger. There are a number of people who I think are really cool. I mean, a lot of the folks I know from the Groundlings, Jennifer Coolidge, Kristen Wiig, Will Forte, who all just do consistently amazing work. But the people that influenced me, I think, are people like John Ritter, Henry Winkler, who were really, really funny, but also so wildly grounded. I mean, creating characters so effortlessly, and that's the sort of stuff that I hope to try to do. I think those would be, and Tom Hanks is sort of somewhere on the cusp, like someone I saw growing up, but also that I was older when I watched him. I mean, certainly as a comedian I was younger, but now watching the way he has expanded his career, it's definitely something, like, God, you hope to just emulate even some small part of what he's been able to do.
All right. Now, you've recently been involved in Cosmos: A Space-Time Odyssey. I understand that Ann Druyan had a very tight control over the script. Did she go through the script with you personally and outline how she wanted characters to be portrayed specifically? Did Seth MacFarlane relay that information? What kind of collaborative structure exists on the Cosmos set between actors, producers, writers? What's the collaborative environment like on Cosmos?
It's Ann's show. That was it. I never even saw Seth. I knew that Seth was doing something called Cosmos, and I was like, wait a minute, is this the same? But no, this is some cartoon thing, and I thought it was the same name. And then when I went there, Seth was nowhere to be found. It wasn't even at his studios. It was Ann directing, telling us what was going on. It was her script. It was her direction. She, was the driving force behind it. And she was great. She was so sweet. It wasn't, I think I was halfway through the session before I realized who she was. Like, she started saying, well, Carl always used him, like, oh, right. But yeah, it was amazing. I mean, very comfortable, very easy. And I don't know that she'd ever done animation before. Yeah. But that aspect of it was really just one small portion, as you can see from the finished product. But she definitely had it as part of the whole thing. It wasn't like she didn't know this part. She knew it to the T. And it was great. You felt very comfortable, very taken care of. And to see the final product, I'm just very proud to be associated with it.
It's very beautiful. And as a physics student currently, we need more shows like Cosmos on the air, because that's how we get inspired to go into these endeavors. With that being said, is there any messages you would like to give out to the fans? Any way that they can see your current products or what's coming? Any new things you'd like to discuss, NDAs aside?
Yeah. Well, I always try to keep my website, PhilLaMarr.com, updated with appearances and new projects. We have a live improv show that I do in Los Angeles twice a month at the Groundlings, called The Black Version. And we also have a weekly podcast that the same group of us do. It's called the Blackout Television, and that's available on iTunes. There's also a Blackout Television app, which is really cool. And I'm actually very proud of it. It's an improvised podcast. We have a bunch of different show formats. There's like a Good Morning America parody, a Judge Show parody, a public affairs type show parody, and they're all totally improvised on mic. And it's so much fun. It's not politically correct by any stretch, but it's really funny.
All right, Phil LaMarr, thank you so much for sharing your time with us. It's been an absolute pleasure.